The S&P 500 continues to climb higher in 2025, and in fact, it's now up over 71% in the last 3 years. And in the midst of this run-up, we continue to see insiders buy shares of their stock. And as the old Peter Lynch quote goes, insiders might sell their shares for any number of reasons, but they buy them for only one: they think the price will rise. And to be fair, the data does back this up. So in this video, we'll be looking at 2 different dividend stocks that insiders have recently been buying. And to analyze them, we'll be using forecaster.biz, which is a great tool I've been using more. You can check them out at the link in the description. Now let's dive in. The first stock on our list is MSCI. If we scroll down here on Forecaster, we can see there was a multitude of purchases from the CEO in early December. Now, this is interesting because MSCI has vastly underperformed the market, especially in the last year, currently down by about 14.49%. Even in the last 3 years, it's positive, up by about 8%, but that's still obviously way underperforming the S&P 500. Now, what's interesting about this is if we look at the sales compared to the share price over the last 3 years, sales have grown at a significantly higher rate than the rate of the share price, which means typically the valuation has most likely gotten better. For example, if we look at fundamentals, we can see in 2020, the stock was generating about $1.7 billion in revenue, and at the end of 2024, it was about $2.86 billion. In fact, let's just take a deeper dive into this by looking at the raw data charted out, and we'll start by looking at revenue. Now, what do you notice about revenue for MSCI, at least since 2005? It's been incredibly stable, and it's grown at a pretty healthy rate. If we go ahead and overlay revenue growth over this chart, we can see for the most part, they're typically growing revenue, especially since around 2015, in the range of around 8 to 12% most years. So immediately we can see there's some characteristics of this business that we like, at least when we look at these fundamentals. Revenue's growing at a very healthy rate. It's growing in that 8 to 12% range, and it's been incredibly stable and incredibly predictable, which is one of the features people are typically willing to pay a premium for. So why does their revenue chart look like this? Well, we have to understand the MSCI business model. Well, MSCI is one of the most profitable data companies in the entire world, and they have 4 main business segments. They have index licensing, analytics and risk models, ESG and climate data, and private assets and real estate analytics. And the vast majority of the revenue they generate from these 4 categories is recurring in nature. So when we talk about businesses with recurring revenue, one of the key metrics is, what does the retention rate actually look like? Are their clients and customers actually staying with the company? Well, look at the quarterly retention rate trends for MSCI. It's typically close to that 95% range, which is amazing. This means their revenues are incredibly sticky. And again, this was evident as we saw when we looked at their revenue charted out. So with that being said, what's the reason for the sell-off, especially in the last year, down by about 14.5%? Well, there's a couple of different things that we could point to, but again, if we go back and look at that revenue charted out and look at revenue growth, we can see for the trailing 12 months, it's quite a bit lower. It's in that 7% range when the previous 3 years had been in that 10 to 13% range. Obviously, when revenues grow at a slower rate, investors are willing to pay lower valuation multiples for that stock. And the reality is, when we look at MSCI and look at the trailing 12 months PE ratio, it's sitting at about 34. So this is absolutely a stock that trades at a premium for the reasons that we've already seen. And so while this is absolutely a high quality business that has high gross profit margins, it has recurring revenues. The reality is, anytime we have a high quality stock, oftentimes the biggest threat to that business is the valuation risk. Any tiny slip up with the underlying business often causes a sell-off because the stock was trading at a premium. If we look at the PE multiple for this company over the last 5 years charted out, we can see they were trading at a very high PE multiple for, again, the last 5 years. It was in the 60s, then in the 40s, and just recently has it really come down to the lower 30s. This was an expensive stock, no doubt. And so when we see that the share price has only grown 27% over the last 5 years, it's not because the business hasn't done well. Like we already saw, top and bottom lines were growing, and at the same time, they were growing dividend payments at a healthy rate as well. The reality is they were trading at a massive valuation. Now, that being said, there has been some good news surrounding this stock as of recently. One of the things we can see when they released their recent earnings report is they updated their full year 2025 guidance. Now, their fiscal year 2025 ends on December 31st, 2025. That's not necessarily true for all companies, but anyways, one of the things we need to make note of is free cash flow. Remember, free cash flow, more specifically free cash flow per share, is the ultimate measure of whether or not a company is actually growing its intrinsic value, and they slightly changed their guidance. We can see listed over here was their prior guidance for full year 2025, and after the recent earnings report, they bumped up the low range and slightly bumped up the high range. Now, it was minimal. It wasn't a large change, but it's still absolutely something we want to see. Upgrading guidance is typically one of the best signs that you can see whenever a company releases their earnings reports. So this was clearly positive news. Now, on top of this, they announced they're releasing some new products. Again, this came in their recent earnings report. But make note of this. They launched the MSCI World Private Equity Return Tracker Index to help investors in assessing private equity market trends. This is designed to approximate private equity performance using publicly listed equities that mirror the regional, sector, and style exposure of private markets. The index is informed by insights from the MSCI Private Capital Universe, a proprietary database covering private capital funds and their underlying portfolio companies. This is a very unique product, one that I think is actually quite interesting. So I'll be interested to see how much demand there actually is for this. On top of this, they launched a new way to gain or hedge exposure to approximately 85% of the South Korean equity market. So a very niche product. And then they launched the MSCI Biodiversity Index screen. Now, there were some other features launched, but I would say those are the main, especially the Private Equity Return Tracker Index. Now, with all that being said, the question is, what would it take for us to start seeing a reversal in the share price? Is the company undervalued with how poor the performance has been in the last year? Well, again, we can project out future returns, but as we'll see, the main risk to this business is still valuation risk. For example, if we look at 2025 through 2029, according to the average analyst estimate, the projected EPS CAGR is about 12%, more specifically 11.96%. So let's just say hypothetically they achieve that level of earnings growth. Now we can see over the last decade their average PE multiple was 42.25, and for the trailing 12 months it's about 33.86, which is close to 20% lower than the 10-year average. Now that being said, there's some outliers here in 2020 and 2021, which if we remove, we can see they're really only about 7% below their historical average multiple. So let's not assume a best case scenario. To start, let's just assume that the PE multiple stays exactly where it's sitting at, 33.86, which is still a bit of a premium for a company growing earnings at about 12%, at least for the most part. Well, based off those numbers, we can still see forward-looking returns actually look pretty attractive for this stock. Compounded returns would still be above average market returns, historically speaking. And on top of this, keep in mind, like we said, yes, they've been growing dividends over the last 5 years, and that starting dividend yield is relatively low, sitting at about 1.34%, but they do grow the dividend over time. Now, if the market continues to reassign them a lower valuation multiple, maybe the PE multiple drops to 28, that's the point at which we would start to see forward-looking returns look more like average market returns. So for MSCI, the business model, it's very attractive. They're growing revenues at a healthy rate, they have nice profit margins, and a large majority of their revenues are recurring in nature. So really the stagnant share price we've seen over the last 5 years is simply due to valuation risk, in my opinion. But with that being said, it's clear that the CEO has made note of the recent share price and has loaded up on the stock of this company. Next up, we have the Hershey Company, and what an interesting ride this stock has been on over the last 5 years. Look at the share price, going from around $150 per share in late 2020, climbing all the way up to above $274 a share in mid-2023, and now we've seen a dramatic sell-off of the stock. Now, if we look at them in the last year, they've only sold off by about 4.5%, but obviously that's way underperforming the broader market as a whole, and the last 6 months, they've seen a little bit of a bump up by about 6%. Now, in the midst of this chaos, they have been growing those dividends. Look at the last 5 years. The dividend went from around 80 cents per share to $1.37. But if you pay close attention, one of the things you'll notice is they actually haven't grown the dividend since March of 2024. So we're coming up on close to 2 full years without any dividend increases. Why is that the case? Well, we'll dig into that here in a moment. But as we should make note, there's been multiple insider purchases in late November. We can see we had insider purchases from officers within the company, including the CEO and the chief growth officer. So what's been going on with Hershey stock? Well, let's zoom out. To start, we can see sales have continued to grow over the last few years while the share price has declined, but sales growth has been very, very slow, particularly in the last 3 or so years. And if we look at net income, it fluctuates quite a bit. And if we look at the price to earnings multiple, we can see that's fluctuated quite a bit as well. So there's a lot to break down. So if we go ahead and jump over to our fundamentals tab, to start, we can see the yield looks attractive at current prices. It's actually sitting at above 3%. Now, again, let's break down what revenue growth actually looks like for this stock. Again, we can see this charted out. As we can tell, it certainly slowed down in 2023, 24, and 2025. In fact, revenue dropped all the way from around 16% year over year all the way down to 0.33%, and then for the trailing 12 months, only up by about 2.5%. So revenue growth has been almost non-existent in the last few years, and one of the things we have to keep in mind is anytime revenue growth is below the rate of inflation, revenues technically aren't growing, at least if you ask me. But this isn't their only problem. Really, it's a bit of a two-headed monster. Let me show you what I mean. Look at the price of cocoa over the last year. Obviously, this is a key commodity with Hershey's business model. Well, we can see the price of cocoa has come down dramatically. It's essentially halved in the last year, which is great news for Hershey stock. But if we zoom out over the last 5 years, we get a much different picture. We can see for the majority of 2020-21, the range that cocoa was trading in. The price was quite stable, but then it absolutely exploded in 2024. It basically 6x'd. And this was due to the troubles that cocoa farmers were having in West Africa, where nearly all the world's cocoa supply actually comes from. So yes, it's come down significantly in the last year, but it's still more than twice the price of where it was pre-2024. So when you have stagnant revenue growth and commodity prices increasing, it creates a difficult situation, at least as it relates to your earnings. So let's just look at net income growth. We can see for the most part, they were still able to grow at a healthy rate, which is quite impressive, but what's up with this huge decline that we're seeing in the trailing 12 months? Well, if we jump over to their earnings report, we can get a little bit of context. Now, to start, they stated third quarter results surpassed expectations as strong innovation, strategic brand investments, and market-leading execution drove momentum across business segments. And here's the good news. Based off our results year to date, we are raising our full year outlook for net sales and earnings per share. If we scroll down, we can see consolidated net sales saw an increase of 6.5%, organic constant currency net sales around 6.2%. But then we see a decrease of reported net income, a decrease of 38.2%. Why was this the case? Well, they make note right here. The impact of Sour Strip's acquisition is anticipated to be an approximate 40 basis points benefit to net sales growth for the full year 2025. Additionally, the impact of foreign currency exchange rates is anticipated to be an approximate 30 basis point headwind to net sales growth for the full year 2025. On top of this, the company expected a tariff expense of around 160 to 170 million. So there was a few key one-time items that really caused the decline in earnings. Now, for me personally, this is why I'm not a huge fan of simply looking at earnings for different companies. They can be manipulated in so many different ways. In reality, we should be focused on free cash flow, especially because that's what dividends are actually paid out of. So when we look at free cash flow charted out, we can see this is actually growing by about 12% year over year. And to me, that's incredible news because it should mean that the company can sustain dividend growth in the future. But if we just simply look at them from a valuation perspective, we can see they're essentially trading right at their average 10-year price to earnings multiple over the last decade. It's only off by about 2%. And projected EPS CAGR from 2025 to 2029 actually looks quite attractive at about 15%. Now keep in mind, 2024 EPS was at about $10.97. So there was a huge decline in 2025, 2026. At least compared to where they previously were. But again, if we assume no change in the PE multiple, it stays in that 26.75 range, and they got 15% earnings growth. Returns, again, would actually look quite attractive, at least over the long term. But with that being said, there's still a lot of unknowns, particularly as it relates to cocoa prices moving forward. It's incredibly difficult to predict what commodity prices will look like even 1 year from now. There's a lot of volatility, especially as we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. So from a valuation perspective, yes, the company looks interesting, but the business model certainly isn't as strong as we saw for MSCI, for example. But there you go, those are 2 dividend stocks that recently saw insider buying. Again, be sure to check out forecaster.biz below at the link in the description. But with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.